Hey everyone, welcome back to the Critic-Verse. Today we're going to do a breakdown and review of the Season 1 finale of Wolfpack titled Trophic Casade. Now, before we get to the episode, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe to join the Critic-Verse and be a part of the community. Now, let's get to the episode. In the first scene, we get flashes of the packs from Baron's POV after Austin had stabbed Baron in the last episode, and we get brief conversations of the pack with Everett saying that he's going to pull out the knife, and he does. Now, after the intro, Baron is then shown in a hospital room. He looks in the mirror only to see Everett in his reflection. The doctor and the nurse from episode 1 come in, and they bring in Everett's parents. Whereas in the place of the actual Langs, his parents are played by Kristen and Ramsey. And this might actually be the shrooms study that Everett alluded to in episode 5. As Baron remembers the fire, Kristen and Garrett switch back to their normal selves, but the doctor suggests upping his dosage, and are shown putting silver in his IV bag, and it goes to a new memory. Baron is now in a car with Kristen and Garrett once again playing mom and dad, but this time they're arguing over a phone. Danny is sitting right next to him. It turns out this is Blake's memory. Then the family gets into a car accident, and Baron immediately shields Danny on instinct. In a new memory, Baron is hearing Garrett and Prisha talk about what Luna did to her horse. We then see Luna call out for Harlan, so Baron is now in his memory. He takes Luna back to bed, which takes him to a new memory. He is in a class with Blake and Austin. Austin asks Baron why he keeps drawing him, and then grabs the notebook and flips to a page with a wolf drawing. Suddenly, everything goes red. Everyone is gone, and the only person left in the room is Baron and Everett. Everett is standing right next to Baron, taunting him about all the people he's killed. Baron says it was the wolf, that he got caught in a fire and it changed him, and Everett stabs him again with the silver dagger. After being stabbed, Baron then wakes up in the woods, sitting next to Cyrus, having a similar conversation to the one that he and Harlan had in After Party, except Baron openly admits that he sees Cyrus as a threat to the pack, and says he'll kill anyone that threatens his pack. He tells Cyrus to run, then chases after him, which then takes him into a new memory where he is himself but sees his shadow as a wolf. In this one, it brings us back to the memory that Harlan described in episode 5, where it's the first time that he met Harlan, and when Harlan was learning how to use his hearing, but Garrett comes and shoots him, to which the bullet wound transitions into the silver dagger wound. Back in the real world, the pack brought Baron to Everett's house and are debating what to do with him, either take him to the hospital or find a way to stop the bleeding. Harlan is having a panic attack and blames it on Everett, but Everett disagrees because he is steady as a rock, and Blake points out that they can see the silver in his blood. Luna wants the two of them to stop fighting. Everett is getting a call from the mysterious caller and says maybe he knows what to do. He answers, and the caller says that the bleeding won't stop until they get the silver out. They have to figure out how to do that first. Everett asks if Baron's dying. The caller says slowly, and Everett suggests the hospital, to which the caller replies with, if they want everyone to know their secret, then take him to the hospital. The caller also says if Baron dies, they break the bond, which is the bond to Blake and Everett, meaning they'll be human again. The caller questions, who would really want that? With Blake's hands covered in blood, Blake wants them to let Baron die. Back at the cold storage, Garrett says he called Luna and she denies knowing about what happened there. Ramsey asks if he believes her, and he doesn't know. Ramsey then tells him to go home and get some sleep and that they'll deal with this tomorrow. Garrett tells her to hold on with him, and she reassures him that she'll handle it. Back at Everett's house, the pack debates what to do next. They believe if they tell Garrett, he'll turn Baron over to the cops just like he did to Cyrus. Harlan checks his heart rate, which is steady, and asks Luna about his smell. She says it's not good, but he isn't dying yet. Everett says he can stay there, and Blake wonders what he can do. Everett theorizes turning others into werewolves is what makes Baron special. In the next scene, on the way home, Harlan and Luna discuss the situation at hand. Luna thinks they should tell Garrett or Prisha now that she knows. Harlan says Prisha always knew. In a flashback of the first episode, Harlan says he knew Prisha was lying when she says a wolf couldn't have done that, and she's known since Luna killed her horse, indicating that the memory that Baron went through was actually real. Luna questions that Harlan never told her. And Harlan says, did she really want to know what she's done? But Luna says she wants to know the truth. In the next scene, Everett and Blake wake up together, fully clothed, I should say, and they debate whether or not to let Baron die, because they didn't ask for this. Everett doesn't want to be normal again at the risk of his anxiety coming back, and she asks him whether or not it would be bad if it did, and Everett says people don't actually understand what it's like to have anxiety. They say that he should use it, it's a survival technique, but it actually makes him feel like he wants to die. Then Everett says to Blake if they get control, they could protect anyone, and she rebuts with the fact that they could also hurt anyone. At the police station, Garrett brings Harlan and Luna for follow-up questions with Ramsey. Tells them to only answer questions with yes and no, and asks if there's anything they're keeping from him, to which Luna says yes and no. Ramsey gives Harlan 5 minutes to talk to Cyrus when Harlan asks why or whether or not the place is bugged. She tells him to see if she's lying, and he listens to her heartbeat and she's telling the truth, supposedly. Harlan goes into the office and turns on the white noise machine, and once he does, it triggers Luna's hearing. In Ramsey's office, Harlan and Cyrus talk about the fact that Cyrus may not be the arsonist of this fire, but he has set a fire before. When he was 9, he set a housing development on fire. No one died, of course, but that they'll still use this against him. Harlan promises him they'll get him out of this, and they kiss. Ramsey comes in and ends the conversation, turning off the white noise machine and eyeing Luna while she does, showing that she knows that her hearing was suddenly shut off. Officer Zhang shows up, saying that they have to make room in the freezer for the 18 bodies they found at the construction site, including Officer Trent Miller, saying they got an anonymous tip. Garrett thinks Ramsey's told, but Ramsey shakes her head no. Garrett tells Harlan and Luna to go home and to just trust him. Harlan says he'll trust him if he gets Cyrus out. In the next scene, Blake brings Danny over to Everett's house, and he has an unsettling but kind of expected reaction to seeing Baron unconscious. And that he somehow knows Baron is the wolf, indicating this while he says the phrase that he's heard 1,000 times before in the news: fear and pain. Luna explains to Harlan that she could hear everything he said to Cyrus because of the white noise machine. And just like the night when they were at the police station, they could all hear each other because Ramsey turned on the white noise machine when talking to Everett. In Harlan's pocket, he finds a recorder. It's the same one Garrett used when he was stuck in the wildfire. As they listen to the message, they realize they have to tell Garrett the truth. As all the dead bodies are wheeled in, Ramsey notes everything is going to change, and Garrett should tell her everything. He asks her if she trusts him. Ramsey says she didn't. Well, not until she saw him with Harlan and Luna. We then get a flashback scene of Ramsey going into the Briggs house while they're all asleep. She checks out the growth chart from that we saw from last episode. She caresses Harlan's face and holds his hand, and even snuggles with Luna until she wakes up but doesn't see anyone. And then it shows Ramsey discovering Garrett's recording that he left behind for Harlan and Luna. Back at Everett's house, Blake and Everett connect Danny to Baron at the parking garage, but Danny's repetition also helps them connect it to Ramsey. They figure out, or sort of grasp at straws, saying that Ramsey's touch is what marked them safe from Baron, as she did the same thing for Danny. They figure out she's known everything and she might be the voice on the phone. Spoilers, she's not. Just then, Garrett bursts in with Harlan and Luna looking for Baron. Garrett takes a look at the wound and sees the silver residue still left behind. He decides to take Baron to the hospital. Blake isn't coming with them. She sort of disconnects herself from the pack, then waits with Danny for their dad in Everett's house while Everett leaves. Which was weird. I mean, what if Everett's parents actually showed up? His mom would probably not have enjoyed that. In the next scene, Everett, Luna, and Harlan are waiting for Garrett, who Luna says he told them to go home and not to wait around. Everett says he can't leave, and Harlan isn't going to leave Everett. But suddenly, Luna isn't big on the idea of a pack anymore. Probably because all of the lying and secrets that she's now been exposed to. Back at Everett's house, Mr. Navarro shows up with CPS and Investigator Ramsey, and says CPS is going to take them because the dad was deemed unfit, and they're going to be separated because Danny has special needs. While Blake pleads with her dad, Kristen interrupts and gives Blake an offer. Seeing as how the bite cured her acne and Everett's anxiety, she tells her to think of what it could do for Danny and how her and Danny could be together if he got the bite. Back at the hospital, Everett tells Harlan he can't get through, but Harlan can, noting that he can go talk to his dad. Harlan says this is getting complicated, so he's going to go find Garrett, and tells Everett to wait for him. Everett sits on the ground against the wall, but his father shows up with two orderlies, saying that Everett brought this on himself when he threatened his mom, and asks his dad if he was going to 5150 him, but says since Everett is a minor, it's a 5585, which is a 72-hour hold. Everett is calling his mom a liar, saying that he didn't touch her. But then his dad yells that he yanked the car keys out of her hands, there's blood all over his rooms, and that the arson investigator says they brought a kid in with a knife wound. The orderlies then take Everett away, which is weird that he didn't use his wolf strength, but whatever. Harlan runs into Cody, who has a bag full of stolen toys, as he calls it, and says his dad hooks him up, and then Harlan figures out from Cody's last name, the firefighter who worked with Cyrus's dad is Cody's dad, which causes Harlan to put something together. We don't know what he actually figured out due to some unseen events that happen later. Malcolm is then shown wheeling Baron out of the hospital, and he's going to use him as bait to lure his mother. And Malcolm reveals that Ramsey was actually the one who started the wildfire, which I kind of didn't see that coming. We then get to see through Baron's eyes of what it was like to be burning in the wildfire, as we saw a flashback of him running through the woods trying to evade the fire, and then ultimately getting consumed by it, and how it transformed him. Garrett says Baron is missing, and that Malcolm left behind his firefighter helmet as a sign of where to find him and Baron. Harlan goes back to look for Everett, and Officer Zhang comes with a squad of officers and arrests Harlan for Officer Miller's murder. Ramsey goes to the depot with Garrett as backup, Malcolm comes in dragging a silver-plated axe and says it's only plated because he used most of the silver for the bullets, and starts shooting, and a firefight begins between the two. While sneaking around, Malcolm runs out of bullets and then picks up the axe, and Ramsey gets a phone call from the mysterious caller. She doesn't know who they are either, but she does think they called in the tip about the bodies. The caller says, "You think you made them a pack? They wouldn't be alive without me." He helped, and he's still doing it, and that's why he called Garrett first. Garrett, coming in with Baron, asks who Ramsey really is. She says she's Harlan and Luna's mother, and Baron is their brother. Ramsey then says only a pack could have brought him back, and the pack is still learning. Baron says he doesn't trust her, and she offers a reason for why he should. She explains what we already know about each member of the pack having a specialty, and then confirms what Baron's specialty is, but also shows her own. She can heal others. She did it by healing Baron's knife wound. She then dispenses with Malcolm almost snapping his neck, but Garrett shoots him in the leg, saying they need him alive. She then knocks him out. Ramsey then questions Garrett on the ecological phenomenon of a Trophic Casade, which Ramsey uses as an analogy for what her true plans are, saying that she really just wants her family back. She wants Baron to be just like Harlan and Luna. Everett doesn't have to be anxious ever again, and Blake and Danny can be normal. Luna can have a pack, and Harlan can have the father he always wanted in Garrett. Garrett then realizes Ramsey means not as a human, and behind her, Baron is shown ready to transform and bite him. Cut to black. Wow, what a finale. It makes me anxious and hungry for season 2, which unfortunately hasn't been confirmed as of yet, but let's not worry about that. Instead, let's get back to the episode. The episode is titled Trophic Casade, which is an ecological phenomenon when you reintroduce an apex predator back into an ecosystem, and the effect it has on that ecosystem. And funny enough, when Ramsey is in the Briggs household when everyone is asleep, Garrett was reading a book on said phenomenon. In this episode, Blake and Everett have this scene where they leave each other, and it's reminiscent of in Teen Wolf when Styles and Malia broke up, and I hope it's not the same idea here. One thing that's funny is Austin is the cause of the inciting incident of this episode, and after like a little blur at the beginning, he's nowhere to be found in this episode except in Baron's hallucination from Luna's dream. Everett seems to know the code for an adult being held, which is a 5150, probably alluding to a past event where his father had to be held, because we know that his father takes the same medication as he does. One thing that's really weird is it's revealed in an almost throwaway line that Ramsey is basically the arsonist and set the fire to lure Baron out, but we've been searching for the arsonist this whole time, and we've actually been with her since episode 1. One thing I want to go on about is Ramsey's motive. So Ramsey set the fire, and then after, Baron made new wolves. She marked them safe because she needed them to bring Baron back. She needs Baron because he can make more wolves, and she wants to rebuild her pack to keep the elk, which she's just referring to human as, in line. It seems as if the packs in Wolf Pack follow the real world wolf hierarchy, where the alphas in a pack are just the parents, and the alphas are a family-like system, and that she wants Baron to turn practically children or teenagers because she and Garrett will be the parent wolves. She wants Garrett to be her new werewolf mate, and you could tell from the romantic interest between them, because she sees him as a stronger werewolf father for her children, which also gives me a theory on who the mysterious caller might actually be. But one thing I hope for season 2 is I actually do hope Garrett gets bitten and becomes a werewolf. Only because you wouldn't expect it. Like, you expect him to get away and not get bit, so he'll stay the token human character. But if he were to get bitten and we get to see Garrett and his struggle with being a werewolf and also being a father to werewolves, would be an interesting storyline to go through. Now, my theory on the mysterious caller is that the mysterious caller has to be Harlan, Luna, and Baron's real father. You could tell from his call to Ramsey in the final couple minutes that he feels jilted by Ramsey because she's choosing a new mate. Even in his words, you could tell that he was trying to assert his dominance and prove his worth, saying that he made them a pack. And also, one other thing about that is I think the father's ability might be some sort of telepathy, considering that he might not actually be really calling them through phones, but he's calling them through their minds and it's just coming through as a phone call. Fun fact, after the episode, they revealed that the voice was in fact Teen Wolf alum Ian Bohen, which everyone pretty much already guessed, but it does give me the hope that he'll show up in season 2 and they don't just use him as a voice. One of the things is the only negative I have is that the finale felt more like a mid-season finale, and we're just like halfway through season 1. It felt like too many open lines. But that might just be because of the fact they're really hoping for another season. Another gripe I had is probably the episode count. Like, streaming services are typically doing these shorter seasons, but I think 10 to 13 episodes is the real sweet spot in terms of having a short season. Okay, everyone. Thanks for joining me on this trip with Wolfpack in the very first season. Hopefully we come back for another one. I'd love to keep doing these reviews, and let me know what other shows that you might want me to cover. Alright, thanks for joining me in the Critic-Verse. See you next time, everyone.